Alright, so today's not about looking pretty. Today we're trying to break some blades. We had a failure with our S35VN blade. It was a field failure. And basically what happened, there was a small nick right about here, which apparently can be a bit of a vulnerable spot in our blades. And over time it propagated up. Ultimately that's why we chose to ditch S35VN and go 3V, which is massively more tough steel. Everybody that we've talked to about this steel is convinced that we can't break it. Today we're going to try to break it with two different blades here. We have a soft one, well, 58, 59 Rockwell. This is the serial number 1. I think I got that right. And serial number 3 here is 60, 61 Rockwell. And we're pretty sure that these blades are going to do everything we want them to, but we want to decide if we can go with the higher hardness without having to worry about chipping and such. So anyway, we're going to beat these up and see what happens and hopefully learn some important lessons. Anyway, what we're actually going to do is simulate this environment here, where we've got a nick that could theoretically propagate. We'll go ahead and do like a V-notch, like a Sharpie V-notch test, except we're not actually measuring our impulses. We're just doing the notch, and then we're going to jig it and, frankly, start wailing on it with a sledgehammer, and if we can't break it that way, work our way up and see if we can tell the difference. If we do break it, that's fine. Nobody should be hitting their knife with the 8-pound sledgehammer. But if it breaks too easily, obviously we'd be concerned about that. I don't really expect that to happen, but I want to see what the difference between the two hardness levels is. And then if it does break, we can still work with the pieces to do some transverse loading chests, and haven't quite figured out how we're going to tackle that, but see how easily it would chip, if at all. And that's probably what will guide us for selecting our final hardness for the TrailBlade. Alright, we got 001 here, softer 58, 59 Rockwell. I'm going to use my angle grinder to put a little notch at the exact same spot that this sample that we referenced broke. And I'm not going to go super deep, just enough to make a nice little notch. If I can turn it on, there we go. What is that? Probably a little deeper on the back, but that's probably, oh, I don't know, 40, 50 thou. That's enough. We're going to go ahead and jig this up and attempt to break it. Guess we aren't selling this one.
Yeah, guess not.
Alright, so we've got this thing jigged up here. Just pinched right here in the crack of the table so that it could actually swivel down very easily, and then held up just with this loose stand with the 2x. Hopefully it doesn't wobble too much. We'll see if that's a problem. But I'm going to start out with hitting it with the 2-pound. Let's put a little bit better of a line on here. So I'll draw a big V pointing at where our little tiny notch is, which I'm a little worried might not be a true notch, but it's definitely a weak point in the blade, so. And we broke it. And let's take a look at it. That broke a little easier than I expected. Of course, I was wailing on it pretty good. But, holy cow, are we missing pieces?
There
must be more pieces lying around here.
There is.
Alright, so definitely had a shatter here, and that was like intentionally stressing this at its most vulnerable. I've never broken a 3V blade like this, so this is a learning experience, but this is how you test, people. You gotta find out what your blades are gonna do. Already I'm thinking maybe hitting it with a 2-pound sledgehammer is a bad idea, no matter how you do it. I think anybody knows anything about knives would just laugh to think anyone would think that would hold up. But anyway, looks like we're missing a little piece here. I'm glad we were wearing safety. Probably shouldn't be wearing sandals, but you know, hey, toes grow back, right? So it definitely looks like it propagated from the cut there and then just kind of spidered out. It's kind of interesting how it went three ways there. That's 3V at 5859 Rockwell. And we're running what, about 150 thou thick at that point. And yeah, just over an inch. All right, this is 003, marked exactly the same as 001. Attempt to do a very similar cut on it. That's probably a little shallower than 001, but let's measure and see what it looks like. That's about 50 still. I guess that's similar. I feel like I came in on the back just a little bit, so I think we actually had a little bit more of a cut, but this is not a lab test. This is a shop test, so we'll just live with that. Same setup. Slide this sucker in here. Alright, before we go, just take a look at this. I was pounding on the middle of this thing, and I left a nice dent in the top of this 2x4. Just, there was a lot of force going on there, because that's actually leveraged out. So, I'm going to put it in a slightly different spot for this one. Be interesting to know just how much energy was dissipating in that blade. I was pounding on it. Alright, now I'm a little nervous because I know they explode. What the heck? Maybe we'll get some blood or something. Make it interesting. I want to stop and see if that thing's propagating at all. And I forgot to put my little marks on there. Make it easy to see where that V is. If it is propagating, I can't see it. Can't feel it with my nail. Alright, let's keep going. Literally sparked the hammer on this. That's how hard this stuff is. This one actually feels harder, and I wonder if it's because I actually kept that notch a little more flat. I'm not feeling any propagation, and I was wailing on it there just every bit as hard. But this is harder, which would make me think it would be brittle, more brittle. And take a look at this. The indentation here is already deeper than it was on the other one. So I wonder if that little bit of a cut on the back actually just really made a difference. Or maybe the hardness did, but I don't claim to be an expert on steel hardness. That's why we're doing these tests. Find out the easy way. Sounds a little different. I don't know. Let's keep going. Holy smokes. Sucker's taking a grand bit more abuse than the last one. I can't imagine that this being a harder blade would be less prone to breaking. I can only explain it that I must have had that cut just a tad bit deeper, or maybe this one's more rounded out than the last one. Which would really support the idea that if we keep the edge of our blade clean, any dents or nicks that we get in it, go ahead and file those out. That we shouldn't have to worry about a break. I think I'm going to go ahead and graduate. I'm a little nervous about this. And I really don't want to land my hand on that either. I don't want to do this. Let's just try dropping it. Let's see if I can drop. liking 6061. Well, Brad, I think I know what hardness I want you to shoot for. So I whale on it. I don't want to know where it'll go. All right. Ooh, I slipped on that. By George, that was not a full strength blow, but. All right, so we finally broke the 003 at 6061 Rockwell, and ironically, it didn't even break where the notch was. You can see the notch, you got a little shadow on here, but the notch is right down there at the bottom of that black V, and it shattered right next to it here, right here, and right here. And all I can guess, and this is, if anybody has any ideas, please comment on this video because I'd love to be educated more. But sympathetic vibrations of some sort, because it shattered all three of those spots all at the same time. A little bit different than this one, which definitely did propagate from the notch, and then just kind of shattered like you might expect glass to. But I really had to wail on both of these to get it. But this one in particular, the harder one, was so much more difficult. So we're very impressed with the 6061, and if the transverse loading chipping test that we have yet to devise works out as well as this did, that's what we're going to do, a nice hard 6061 Rockwell. This is 001 5859 Rockwell. I'm just using a, this is a little tool, hardened steel, used to extract broken bolts, and I'm just going to set this up against this edge here near the thin part of the blade and start tapping it and see if I can chip a piece out. My jig is not actually fixed, so I'm hoping that's not too much. Actually, maybe I'll shoot over on this back side. Maybe we'll just let it fall over now and see what happens. Alright, we did chip that a little bit. I had to hit it a little bit harder than just a tap. Got a tiny little chip right there. But my part actually had to slip, and then it popped it out. Basically flint napping a piece of 3V here. Yeah, I've got to hit it pretty hard to get it to pop out, but I've got a sharp point on this tool here, so it's all that force in one spot. It's really not reflective of what you would experience chopping any kind of a material you should be chopping. Maybe a rock, but you're not gonna hit a rock that way. You really shouldn't with any knife. But anyway, those are pretty bad nicks. I don't think you would actually experience those in real life use, but even so, you could, if you had to, file those out. Take a little bit of elbow grease, but they could be repaired. Let's go ahead and jig up for 003. I say that right? This is 001. Yeah, let's put 003 in and see how that behaves. All right, we're ready with 003 here. 6061 Rockwell, same test. Line up against this edge here. Give it some taps. Yeah, it slipped. Tiny little nick because I slipped. Let's see if I can hold it in place a little bit better than that. You know what I think I need to do is drop this down a little bit. Match the jigging on the other one. See if that feels a little bit better. There, so I can come down on it rather than sliding up. So give it a pop, see what happens. Nothing, 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 nothing. That one actually slipped a little bit and took out a notch, but that definitely was taking a good bit more than the 58, 59. I'm feeling like 60-61. I don't understand it. If somebody out there knows their metallurgy and the CPM metals, particularly 3V, explain to me why we're getting better impact resistance basically out of a harder piece of steel. But based on the performance I'm seeing right here, definitely encouraged towards the 60-61 Rockwell hardness. So I think we've made our decision for going towards the 60-61 Rockwell hardness for our production blades. what we'll be selling at Blade Show here in a couple weeks. Looking over the way that this performed, it's really interesting how the harder Rockwell actually didn't even bother to break where we expected. That's very encouraging. And one thing that I noticed after looking a little bit more is that this break here, we've actually got a turned up little fleck there. I mean, it's not coming off. It's not really a fleck, I guess, but it's bent. And I think that maybe when the hammer hit it, that we actually had some twisting that happened, and that might have actually contributed to it finally breaking. Way more abuse than you'd ever see in someone's hand. So we're very happy with the performance there. The transverse loading, also very happy with. It took way more abuse before it chipped, and the chipping felt less significant. Looks less significant than it was on the slightly softer sample. Anyway, we're very happy with that, and very much so looking forward to beginning to sell these at Blade Show. And unfortunately, TrailBlade serial number 1 will not be available for sale. This is going to go into our museum, and when we die, it'll get auctioned off for $1 million or something, along with TrailBlade 3. But maybe 2 and 4, and beyond that, you never know. Come on down to see us at Blade Show. And just a last note, 3V is not a cheap steel. Just the blanks for these things are running us like $100. We got to get them cut out and milled. There's a lot of money going into this test right here. So other knife makers out there who are looking at 3V, I hope that this is helpful to you as well in understanding the performance characteristics of 3V and how it might work out in your application. Anyway, thanks for watching.